talk about creating safe spaces in Castro.
Did somebody say recovery?
Let's talk about meetings, sex and recovery.
Sober sex? Did somebody say dick?
Let's talk about mental health. Let's talk about... Welcome. You are at the CCC,
Where there are no outside issues with Bonnie Violet.
And Lulu.
Each week, we will provide and create a brave space where we engage in conversation around topics of recovery.
And our intention is to inspire better spaces for more people in recovery
by tackling topics used to separate us.
But before we begin, please remember to like, share. Subscribe, do whatever
share
you do
with your friends
to catch us. Hey. So how's it going? How's it going, Bonnie?
Hey, I'm good. How are you? Should we just talk as if Kim's not there?
Let's talk. Let's pretend like Kim's not there so that we can. So then we say,
I'm just gonna go
right. There's not somebody here right now. Just 5 minutes. No.
Exactly. No. It's like, well, we can dive right in there. Right. Hi, Kim. How's it going?
How's it going, you guys?
Good.
Hey, do you want to tell our audience about you a little?
Sure. You know what I was just thinking with your little intro. It has nothing to do with anything about me. I was just thinking like what's normal, or is it okay to have conversations with your psychiatrist / therapist in front of other people?
Is it?
Yep.
What do you think?
Well, I think
not not a one-on-one, not your whole counseling session, but okay. I mean I was just talking to my psychiatrist out there because it happened to be the only time I can get him on the phone. And I noticed, there's people around me. I just was wondering, is that? What do you think about that?
I think that so when you get to a place where you're comfortable and confident with you, I determine my narrative. There's nothing that anyone else can say or do if I'm spiritually sound, And so I think that obviously there are things that you are not going to want to talk, especially if you have it on a loudspeaker. Because if it's a one-sided thing, it's a one-sided thing.
Right.
But really, it's if I think the problem comes is are you concerned with the people around you? Are they going to take this information that's your information and do something with it that is going to make you feel unsafe? Yeah. So
well, and I think if you're just trying to be if you're looking about the idea of being mindful, it might even be depending on what you're talking about, it could be triggering to people who are listening or whatever. If that's what that's what I'm gauging. I was just
wondering if am I being a sensitive human by talking about this? But it was I'm not ashamed, and I'm pretty open that I have a psychiatrist and a therapist and all these. I have a whole community.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's great to be able to talk about it because,
I am aware that there were other people there, and I just, I know not everybody feels the same about, psychotherapy, or not that they have to, but anyway, I guess it's okay then.
Yeah, no, I think it's.
I already did it.
I do what I want, but
exactly.
I'm trying to be mindful.
Exactly, I do what I want. Exactly. So, how was your week, huh?
My week, regular. I'll just work.
Busy. Huh?
Yeah, I've been booking queens and kings and other things. So really excited. It's Pride Month. So
yes, it's Pride Month.
Happy Pride Month to
I know. Happy Pride, folks.
All you little queerdos.
Queerdos, exactly.
Queerdos, LGBTQIA folks.
Well, actually, to be fair, there are some folks who just are not comfortable with the word queer.
Right.
And so just to be mindful, queerdos, weirdos, gays, however you want to identify, because we're going to respect that.
Yes, and know that it's not said out of offense.
Malice. Of course not. No.
Yes.
That's not your gig.
Right. No. I identify as queer myself, so I definitely don't mean to say it in a way.
I do too. It's I just don't say it all the time. It's if somebody called me queer, I wouldn't be like, oh, put my hand on it. Oh, you don't know me. So from on my end, I mean, I'm currently on vacation. I got nine days of bliss, and I set it up around my days off so that I have a number of days at home and 4 days away.
Nice.
Because you need a vacation sometimes from your vacation.
Yeah. Did you have your cam set up? Did you catch Dominic while he was watching your place?
No, he's watched. He hasn't started yet. He's
Oh.
yeah. Somebody said set up the cam just right.
Right.
No, I don't think I have to because Dominic will probably
Right.
videotape all the necessary stuff. Actually,
Yeah, and you'll have to listen to last week's episode if you need to know what we're talking about.
Exactly. So
Sorry,
you'll feel part of it. Yeah. Honestly, like I think that Dominic, he's gonna be great because I'm gonna take all my art down and let him kind of help me and guide me, like so that because my show place, I know my limitations.
Right.
There's some things I don't know, and maybe like bringing my personal taste and his eye together.
Mhm.
Hey,
Right.
Dominic?
huh?
Little baby Dominic?
Yes, a little.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got such a good taste.
Good eye and taste.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
he's done great things.
you were talking about like being mindful out, when you were speaking to your therapist or whatever,
Right.
and this ties very nicely into our topic for today, which is service.
Mhm.
Because it's like you were thinking about other people, and service a lot of times is inconvenient. And it's about thinking about other people and not just thinking about yourself, and unless you're serving yourself.
Right. And there's
That's
a
a way of-
place and time.
Yes,
and
exactly.
That's good for you.
Exactly.
That's very
Right.
necessary.
Well, and I think that being of service is not only just the idea of maybe like not saying things that might like trigger other people or trying to be mindful of people's privacy, but I think also being of service by sharing that you're, like if you're comfortable sharing, I mean, yeah, like, like I talk about being on medications and things like that on the show before, but I think that's being of service as well too, because it lets other people know that there might be another way, or, that it's okay if that's something that you might need to consider during your journey as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you think of service, it's like, so we'll grill you. When you think of service, what do you think about?
I think service it's kind of like it's how you live, and service is how I live my life.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It goes into every single thing I do.
Absolutely.
It's the most important thing I do in this world and my reason for being here, I think.
Yeah.
I love it.
But
But it's right on. It's
I
like,
had no direction or no actual purpose, until I found some in doing service. It makes me like happy. It makes me feel like appreciated. It gives me, I don't know, so much self-esteem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's all good.
that's okay. It's like, we really want to hear what you have to say. So
Yeah,
you have to speak into the mic.
Yeah, it makes me feel good. That's why I do it. I love to feel good. That's why I did drugs for many
Yeah,
years.
right.
Because I love to feel really good.
Mhm.
It's like that
and
line.
I like a lot of
Yeah.
it,
Right.
That's like that line from in Rent. I like to feel real good.
Right. Well, I heard this quote once too, that service is the rent we pay for our lives.
Yes.
Or something like
Good
that.
one.
I'm sure it was better than that. But yeah, I mean, I do feel like, kind of like you said, service is just like, it's something that I get to do because I have a life, like I have something to offer now, and I think that's kind of cool. Somebody did it for me. So I get to like, kind of like, I feel like, you got to give it to keep it. I think there is kind of that economy with it all, but it's not about like, it's not something you have to do begrudgingly or out of obligation. Actually, it's just something that I like to get to do.
Right.
And
Right.
it feeds me.
Yeah, it gives you purpose. I mean, I think that it's great. Like when you're on the, your pathway, which involves school, like possibly marriage, family, kids, or whatever. But there's more to things. Like I love this idea that like the most important thing about your life is not the numbers; it's the dash in between those numbers, and what you did and how you brought something to. And I think that I was fortunate enough, even through my darkest times, to have kind of a foundation that was given to me by my family to be of service. Like you said, it's and I'm almost, I believe it's something that is naturally in us. It's almost naturally in us because when we love and care about people, we may not call it service what we do.
Right.
But we just do things. We do things because it makes, like I said, it makes me feel good.
That's interesting to
I
think
absolutely enjoy it. It's like last week we were talking about, I was listening in, we were talking about gift giving and letting other people give us gifts. Not just gifts like possessions, but sometimes allowing people to hear our issues, allowing people to kind of help us sort through difficulties. It's a gift, and it's like it's a blessing, and we need to kind of get over our cheap selves, as they put it, and be of service in that way. Early recovery for me, I realized that, obviously I was an adult and I'd lived before, but I was not acting as an adult. I wasn't showing up. And the service for me, like for the country club here, I would show up on Thursday mornings, every Thursday morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. Somehow I would get up, and I didn't trust myself. I didn't even believe that it was something that I could maintain, but I did it. And what that did was it changed, like I've been saying this, but it changed me at the molecular level. It got into me, and all of a sudden it re-tapped into my work ethic, and it changed me in that way. And service sometimes can be completely selfish in that, you're doing it and it's for this amazing reason, but it helps you, it grows you,
Yeah. I feel like service, though, I think service work prior to recovery, I think I had a different relationship with it, because I think, I don't know, it's weird. I think, I think there's different ways you can experience service, right? Like there's plenty of times I've been in service as a way of kind of like either feeling obliged, like obligated, or like I need to like make up for something, for some sort of like validation or retribution, or, like to earn something or validate myself in some ways, which I don't think is a good way to go about it. But I think there are times in my life when that was the case. Whereas, it's different when you can do it like lovingly, like I don't know. I
think in early recovery too, I think service is one of the things that kept me coming back, because it gave me that little bit of integrity, that little bit of push, that little bit of knowing the community, making me feel needed and wanted, because nobody was making me feel like that anymore. Everybody was pushing me away, and service gave me like something to feel good about myself, even if it was just for that 1 hour or just for that one day, or, and I realized it was so easy to do, and I didn't need to do much. And it started making me feel like, oh, I can be a part of this, just if I do this. It's like, so, and then, what you were just saying about the country club, oh my gosh, because I've been unemployed for like 100 years now. It feels like the whole
just
pandemic,
100, exactly.
the whole pandemic. And like volunteering at the country club, which I've submitted an application like several times, but I don't know why they just selected my application. Everybody's like, how did that happen? Anyway.
I know, Brandon, what's going on there? It's like,
but
it's an exclusive group.
I know, it's hard to get in here.
Right.
But, now that I finally work here, it's like, it makes me feel so good. Like I even showed up for work like last Friday, and I wasn't even scheduled, and I stood, because it's like,
when I was scheduling volunteers, it's like you would have been at a gym. It's like, thank you, stay please.
Because it's fun, and I get to see people I love, and I feel useful.
Yeah.
Because I'm not useful at home by myself sometimes. You know what I mean? I can only do so much.
Yeah, and sometimes it's easier when you have like a role in something to go do something, and that kind of can cause you to be more social. I think we've talked about it before, but just like, I know for me, sometimes I can have a hard time like being a part of and getting to do like service in one way or another. Like if I'm behind the counter, then I'm kind of supposed to be nice, and it's expected to talk to people and do those sorts of things, which are things that I want to do and would love to do. But if I'm there on my own, I'm probably just going to like sit in the table and like hope that somebody talks to me, even though I'm going to be like not looking at anyone the whole time.
I don't always buy that. If you say, especially early on, I mean, my attitude's changed because I like to stay at home a lot, but I don't always buy it when someone invites me and says they want me to be there. But when Brandon says he wants me to be there, and he puts me on the schedule with my name marked on, that means that he really, really wants me to be there.
Right.
No, I'm giving DJ Wasabi Nuts a hard time.
Right.
That's so cute. Yeah, I feel like, in my job, I worked from home and I worked independently. I've been like an independent contractor for many years. And, I love to work by myself. Like that is one area where I don't need to be in the middle of like a place with a lot of people. I don't need to see a lot of people.
Right.
But that's how I get to have fun when I do service, and I get to support the community. I think, because it's just the right balance.
Yeah.
It's important to talk about when service goes bad, because I think that like a lot of times we say, like,
I've never experienced
like
that.
service, like a lot of times we say service will keep you sober, but service just like
Can get you drunk.
focus on other people
Yeah.
sometimes it can be just like your active addiction, where you use it to check out. Like, I'm going to focus on this so much that I don't have to focus on what I need to focus on. And I think it's like, and both of you guys are nodding, but have you had experience like with that? And like, what were some of the things or some of the ways that you kind of, number one, got some awareness around it and found your way out of it? Because it's not easy. Like once you're on that road, to change it up. I mean, because if you make something your life, if you make something, like you said, on one end, that's wonderful. It is your life or whatever, but you make it so much your life that you don't know what to do if you feel like you need to break away from it.
Yeah, I think that's when like trusted advisors come in, like those people, maybe just one person in your life, or maybe two that you could tell like anything to, and that will tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Like, I see this happening and you need to like look at yourself, because it's hard to see. And I think sometimes I know it, but denial runs like really deep. And I love it. You know, I could sit in denial for a long time. So until somebody points it out to me, it's like, and then at that point, then I know. It's like, now I'm choosing to just ignore that and keep on like going in the opposite direction of, spiritual progress.
Yeah.
Have either of you I had somebody ask me if I could be their service mentor. I'd never heard of that before. Have you guys ever been asked to do that or had one?
Is that what somebody
like a service?
Is that what somebody sends you
it's
on,
a
on
thing.
the sites?
It's like a thing where you have like a mentor that you check in with about like the service work that you're doing. Because, some of the service that we get to do is pretty high level. Like Kim's had those positions too, where you're like the co-chair of like a large conference where you're dealing with like tons of personalities and business. I mean, some of us get to do things we've never been able to do before, but we're doing it because we're in service for recovery. And that can be a lot to kind of like try to manage. And so having somebody that can mentor you through the process, but I had never heard of it before, but I guess it's a thing.
I've had one before when I was chair of Living Sober. I had to have somebody that like knew the codes.
Right.
No, exactly.
It makes a lot of sense.
Through the experience, because it is a little bit like Survivor. And, to make it through, you need somebody who's actually like walked in your shoes.
Yeah.
And so like that person just kind of said, oh, this was my experience. Doesn't really tell you what to do, but just kind of like somebody you can just kind of let go.
Well, you can get to where you keep that stuff in your head because it doesn't feel like it's something you can talk to your co-chair about or your committee chairs, or you know what I mean? So it's like, who do I talk to about this? Because I'm in this particular role. It doesn't seem like appropriate for me to, I don't know, share this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
Which is usually like crap, but like I know that for me is that happens sometimes.
Yeah. I think it's really helpful.
I think that I've never had like an active mentor, but I think that when I've been in positions like that, I've actively looked for folks and picked their brain. Because I think the way that I've always been, it's like, I will process the hell out of something before like I take action. And that's why it used to annoy me when somebody would assume that I was making a snap judgment. I'm all, you don't know how much I agonized over this. It's like I talked to this person and that person, put it through the wash, the rinse, and did it again. Yeah. So for anybody watching, if you have any comments, any questions, by all means, like please join our conversation. It's like we want to hear from you.
Beatbox says,
that reminds me, when I first became chair of Living Sober, I remember I wanted to talk to you because you were Miss Castro Country Club and you had to deal with all the personalities. And I was like, oh, what can I learn from her?
Right. How does she do it?
Yeah. Because I saw how she did it every month and it was great. And I'm like, how did you do that? Because I know that wasn't easy. So.
Lots of practice?
Well, lots of practice. I can answer that, but you were going to say something.
Oh, there was a question for Kim in the comments from Beatbox Events. Said, ask Kim to tell us some recovery history about service. She knows all the things.
Oh, because one of my service areas that I'm so interested in, and now I'm going to actually, I'm in a graduate program now for archives.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
I like to preserve the history of our local recovery spaces, specifically living sober. My goal in life is to one day like have the means to really like professionally organize and catalog those archives.
Nice. Have a little museum or something.
I just have it so that we don't ever lose that history because it's so important.
It is.
It's important to San Francisco. It's important to the queer community.
Absolutely.
It's important to just the world, in my opinion. I get very into this, but
we need people.
And all those stories that have happened each year from like that have been passed on. There's like, that's so much generational like knowledge and experience that I don't want us to lose that. And it's in jeopardy.
Yeah.
If we don't have people who know what they're doing to actually preserve that history, it will get lost.
Yeah.
You're like an African culture, they would call you a griot. Yeah. It's like, although it's a verbal,
is that what that is?
It's a verbal kind of person that in a lot of cultures where this person is the story keeper or and really keeps all of the important like information and knowledge and then passes it on as it goes so that so it's an oral kind of history and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's important because, then someone else is going to come that's not from this community and tell the story. And we don't want that happening.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because it's like a game of telephone.
Yeah.
It's like because obviously there are many different ways to look at things. But when you've got someone taking accurate notes, copious accurate notes. So to answer your question, like I think we talked about it, but what's interesting, while I was in it as Miss Castro Country Club, like when you approached me, I think that I was still kind of struggling to learn. It was not always easy because I have an ego. I have ego, and I obviously wanted things to be a certain way for me. I think I got to work with my sponsor, and I got to talk to other people who had the experience, and remind myself that this is not about me. That this is not completely about me. Although I was given stewardship for this show, the show that I hosted for the year, and I got there was a lot of freedom. It was an opportunity for other folks, and I think I was able to, especially towards the end, because it's like it was a bumpy start. It was a bumpy start and a bumpy middle, and I definitely made some mistakes, but that's
how we learn.
Yeah, exactly. But by the end, it was all about like, how many people can I give this opportunity, and how can I keep Lewis out of the equation? Like one example, like I think that you and I had a conversation, and you asked, well, what do you think about this? And I would choose a theme, and I would ask folks to just, if you feel this goes with the theme, then knock yourself out. I don't want to hear about what you're doing because I want to be surprised like everybody else, because I have this very expressive face. Like I could be looking up and thinking about something else, and I think about say the wrong thing. And if you're struggling with your confidence or whatever, you may read that the wrong way.
Yeah.
And so I was going to say the best, sometimes being a service is not saying anything at all, or kind of just letting people kind of go out there because it's a form of art for people.
Right.
And the key is like, I don't want to be that person that keeps you from doing it and missing an opportunity to see if that's, because it's either going to go well or not. We practice third step, turn it over.
Yeah.
It's either going to go well or not. And I'm there to kind of give love and even though I was pretty ruthless on the mic, I was like Nina Simone defecating on the microphone. But no, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, and I learned a lot about me. I was so happy it was done, and I'm happy to see it continue to go. It's like, yeah,
those are such amazing opportunities, for us to grow as humans and, as part of the community. I think when we have those leadership roles, and you get to show like that it's not always pretty.
No,
fuck up a lot of times. I lost it quite a few times that year. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And because people were not like, you know, just because my own issues had nothing to do with anyone else, but just, you know, when people weren't responding the way I thought they should respond, it didn't go well for a while.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
Oh.
I had to learn to
And
let
they
it
never
go.
do. And they never do. Because
do.
they never do. It's like, that's a lesson that we learn. It's like, like I have put my heart and soul into something and then come out of it and not felt like this great sense of like pride and joy. And it's a self-esteem booster. It's like, because I now know I can show up.
Right.
I can show up and I can make things happen. I'm a mover and a shaker.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of, and like being a leader, I mean, we're just workers among workers.
Absolutely.
But I think when we do get a level of leadership, you do have to kind of get to a place where you can, I don't know, hold on to it a little more loosely, I guess, like wear it like a loose garment, they say.
Yeah.
I know like when I've had the hardest time when I'm like, I think there's sometimes when I can feel insecure about the way things are going. And if I'm like the one in charge or whatever, then I like think it reflects on me. And then if I'm thinking that somebody might think it's not good, then in the past I would get all like uncomfortable and kind of be like probably a little bit more micromanagey and crap like that. And it's so relieving when you can just be like, it's not that big of a deal, girl.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, it takes a while. It takes
It does.
it takes going through this, and then that's where it can be tough, because obviously, folks, sometimes you have folks who don't show up and who are not of service, or should I say, they're not of service in the way you're of service. Because I think that what we figured out in our conversation so far is that there's so many different ways of being service. Sometimes being of service to keeping my damn mouth shut, because you know, actually, sidebar, no, but and having those individuals maybe like be critical of how you show up. Like, I got involved with Living Sober. I remember when I got involved with it because I was critical of it before, and I was thinking, okay, you know what? I would say the same.
I'll show them how to do it.
Well,
right?
no, not even showing how. I would say this to someone else who was judging. It's like, you know, if you wanted to be a different way, then get involved.
Yeah.
Get involved, and so I got involved. Yeah, and then I got uninvolved.
Yeah.
No.
Has service work changed for you all during, say, like COVID times or whatever? I know like the last year or so, service has become, a lot of my service has been around accessibility and creating more accessibility for folks in meetings. So whether, you know, I've seen a lot of more like BIPOC meetings coming up and trans meetings. And like, that's one of the things that's been nice about virtual, but also like ASL interpretation, things like that. Have you noticed anything different as far as service work for you in the last little while?
Well, yeah, I mean, just in how you were service, because I was secretary for a meeting, a California meeting. It was not just San Francisco, and so I had to get speakers from all around and sign in. I had to get right with technology and Zoom, and I like. Now I get calls not just from people here, but all over, like all around. I mean, that to me is what changed. I really feel like initially I was just excited, like to be there, like to have my camera on and to show people that I was there, and, you know, raise my hand every so often and kind of share what's closest to my heart. And actually, I was on tour for a while, because I think I shared like 7 or 8 times early on, and so
and that's service work. If you're just going, like just participating in recovery, like it's like where people can see you. What was the word I was going to say? Like, anyway, people see you.
Yeah. No, exactly. What about you?
Yeah, it's exhausting. I think that happens when you like share in a cluster. You get like you're doing a circuit.
Yeah.
You're like a circuit speaker, you know, and it's really tough. And I think I know for archive, my work with the archives and the history stuff, I haven't been able to get into the archives since we've been on shutdown. We haven't had access. But also a weird thing that I've noticed, and is kind of, I love to go to meetings, and I think I have like a good group of people that I normally see at my meetings, but I think on Zoom, it's really given me this like unique look at who's in the meeting. Like, because normally I'm in the meeting, I like to sit up front. So I don't see who's in the back of me.
Exactly.
Like,
if I don't see you before the meeting and after the meeting, I didn't see you.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sitting in the front because I have to pay attention. And if I'm sitting in the back, I pay attention to everybody else except me. So I sit in the front and I don't see who's a part of the community that is also there. And on Zoom, I get to see, oh, well, this is interesting. Like 75% of this audience looks alike. You know what I mean? Oh, this is interesting. I'm the only woman.
Yeah, you could visually notice that, right?
I mean? And that is not so obvious when we're not on Zoom. So that's been a little bit of a wake-up call for me to see how I can enlarge and grow my community. And like, do I fit in here? I've often asked myself throughout this pandemic, when I'm in a meeting or in a group and I'm the only woman, like, why, what is wrong with me? Why am I here? Is it necessary? How can we enlarge the space and make it more welcoming and open?
Yeah, well, and there, and I think that's a great thing that there are multiple places, because some of us can be in more of a mixed group where other of us may need to be in a more like affinity group that we are more aligned with, whether it's because of our gender or our race or trying to think our like they have like mental health, like dual diagnosis, or there's a lot of ways to kind of like partner up, and it might make sense. I know like I've been going to trans meetings lately, and that's been like really helpful for me just to be in a room full of other trans people.
We talk about it. It's finding that brave space, finding that place where you can feel confident and comfortable. And there may not be anything different about them, just that there are more folks who identify in the way that you identify. And sometimes that's all that's needed. Like when I go to a BIPOC meeting, or when I go to a meeting, like I always joke and say, a meeting, if there were all meetings with Lewis's who were Black, who were gonna, everything where we didn't have any differences, that would make it so easy.
Right. Well, but it is also important for us to have space in which we all can, like, very different people can be in the same room as well. And I think recovery has a way of bringing people, when it's done well, has a way of bringing people together.
Exactly. And I think like with meetings online, like people needed to get comfortable. Because I remember I used to have anxiety before I would sign on. I would have anxiety because, and I don't know why, because I would sign on and it's kind of like the rest of the world. Like I'm thinking that everybody's focusing on me.
Yeah. It kind of seemed like the need for smaller affinity groups became almost more important. One of the things that I noticed or mentioned, and I'm not a person of color, but someone had mentioned that like usually like if a person of color had talked about a racial issue or something that happened in a meeting, somebody afterwards might tell them that that's not like meeting appropriate, right?
Yeah.
But then we're living in this time where there was so much talk about race, where white people are processing their racial stuff in meetings, which is harmful to the people of color. Right. And so I think it seemed like it made it even more important for there to be meetings where people could just go and not have to deal with other people's ignorance. Because some of us were not in the place to deal with that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it was up to individuals to kind of decide how am I going to get through this with as much grace as possible.
Some of my BIPOC friends stopped going to the meetings that I was going to altogether. Like the only way I could see them was we actually made separate time where we met one-on-one, but they don't go to any of the meetings that I was going to anymore because they just kind of had to pull back.
Yeah. It's interesting when you have to pay attention, because it's easy when you go to live meetings to kind of not pay attention. We were talking before, and you kind of talked about like the whole idea of 75%, and feeling like if you're welcome. And a great example, like when I was trying to recruit volunteers here for the country club, I was always thinking, oh, we need more representation, not across programs, but also more women. And one of the things I was saying is like, I feel a responsibility because it was convenient to get whoever was available, and whoever was available just happened to be men. And we're in the Castro, and even though the Castro is this so-called mecca for all in the LGBT mafia, the LGBT. I'm missing the LGBT.
We got you, girl.
Thank you. So it's like it was out of convenience. I was doing that so that I could fill spaces, but not really wanting to recruit, but not really actively. And I can look at it now and own it, but back when I was doing it, I was quite toxic. So it's like I probably would have fought you if you had said, "Oh yeah, but I'm all seriously, I'm doing my job."
Yeah, I think that's why it's important to have people who are in, like, say, the position you were in, where you get to select, or organize or lead to be representative of, like, to have a good division of labor with different people that made up. Because I know, just like I don't think I did anything like particularly, to maybe bring more women, except by being a woman for living sober. And there was actually more women that year than there had ever been, both on the advisory board and the steering committee. And that was super important to me, but that wasn't like, necessarily a goal. It was just kind of like an outcome that happened because a woman was, I think,
visibly there.
Visibly there.
Yeah, because otherwise you just think like, is that a place? That must not be a place for me.
Right.
But somebody's
we
got
naturally get people from our community and who we're like friends with to do commitments. And
well, I remember I was an Al-Anon like representative last year, and being trans, they didn't have a place to put me. So they had a list of the male co-chairs and the female co-chairs, but they didn't have like a trans co-chair. And so they were like, put me in one of the lists. And then I was like, actually, I think I just need to be in a different line,
Yeah.
So, and that can be a challenging like place to be in when you just want to exist. When those kind of conversations are happening, that's what I mean by like it takes, it can be difficult to be that one person in the space that's different, I guess.
No, I agree. Absolutely. I think that like I feel the same way with and this is outside of like recovery, but I've always kind of been comfortable in the Castro, which I realized that I'm grateful for that. I had friendships or whatever, but I also have Black friends who weren't outside of the Castro, and they never felt a part of like, and sometimes service is just being here, just showing up.
Yeah.
Just kind of showing you that like, hey, I'm here, because the gift my parents gave me is like, you belong wherever you go within reason, of course, because they gave me the talk. I mean, obviously I'm not going to be somewhere where I'm not supposed to be, or where I might run the risk of getting in trouble. But really, like within reason, there are a few spaces that I don't feel comfortable in, and if I'm uncomfortable, I'm not going to try to make them comfortable for me. I'm usually going to like find that place that's comfortable, which is home.
And I think there were some people that had to go through the idea of like, maybe not every space is for me. And I want to say that mostly just there were white people, and myself included, where it's appropriate for me not to like just make space somewhere just because I think I should be there, or I'm like a better white person or something that you know what I mean? Like, I think it's really important for us to be mindful of the spaces that we're in, because it is important for there to be space for, I don't know, you don't have to be in every space.
Yeah, no. And I think that's for everybody.
No, totally.
I think that's for everybody. But, in this instance now, it is probably important to say it with the words. Yes, there are some places that white people don't need to be. You don't need to change it. It does not have to be terraformed in order for it to be acceptable.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's like we're all just trying to get sober.
Absolutely.
It's just some of those other things can create a lot of I don't know, it can create a hostile environment that can make it difficult for us to just to feel safe and vulnerable enough to, I think, grow.
Yeah, exactly.
The way that we need to.
And I think being of service is opening your mouth and saying, "Hey, this is not acceptable," or that service. All of those things. It's tied. I was thinking it's tied to activism. It's tied to advocacy. It's tied to all of those things. It's like it's tied to just expression. It's like, wow. It's like
justice. It's tied to a whole lot of things, and I think like the biggest part of service is just like just showing up. You don't have to do anything.
Exactly.
I can just exist. Just show up.
I have been appreciating the kind of and people might feel a certain way about it, but I've been really I've been working in queer settings and LGBT settings. I've been gay for pay for a long time. So I've been in those environments where we've been dealing with gender and talking about race, especially because I worked in HIV and AIDS. And so it's not, and those never were you could never talk about it, or it was never really I don't know. It was just it's just not like that in the room, in recovery. And it's nice to see that people are willing to live beyond that. I'm not wording it that way, but I'm excited about that integration that is happening.
Absolutely. So we've been talking about livingsober.org, and I think that it's definitely worth flashing that. The Living Sober has the Western Round of Living Sober has a conference coming up, huh?
Yes, it does on Labor Day weekend, and it's the longest continuously running held conference in the world of recovery. And it's
virtual,
a 3-day conference. Yes. It's going to be virtual and free.
And it's free,
but donations.
So please do, you do have to register.
You have to register.
But what we have this year at talking about accessibility is that we're trying to have ASL interpretation throughout the whole conference. And it's a pretty expensive thing to do. And so we definitely need folks to help donate in that area, but we don't want people not to participate in the conference because they don't have money. That makes sense.
Of course. And also just remember, your contributions make sure that this conference is here for the next generation of folks to come in, because if it wasn't for, the people that gave so much money in the 80s and 90s, we wouldn't have been able to have the conference in basically the 2010 to 2019, because we were losing money. And we need this conference. This conference is important. And and we want to make sure that every year we can throw ourselves a party. I mean, who doesn't want to do that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
And make sure I want to make sure you visit. This is a new thing we're doing. Make sure you visit me at LouisLou86. It's my Instagram handle. You can go and see fabulous drag pictures and whatever, and share your pictures. And if you have any questions or comments or thoughts about, what you want us to talk about.
Also, we're going to start at a new time next week.
Yes,
so we wanted to let folks know about that.
Yeah.
We're going to be starting at 4:00 Pacific Standard Time now.
Yes, exactly.
The club will be opening for meetings in a couple of weeks. And
actually about a month or so, huh?
Whenever, at some point soonish.
Don't quote us.
So we need to be able to kind of accommodate our timing so that we can still use the space. So starting next week, we will be here at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Absolutely. And just so you know, as a reminder, the Castro Country Club is a clean and sober gathering place for all people and a home for the queer recovery community. We're located in the heart of the Castro district of San Francisco, and we endeavor to be a space where all can seek wisdom, serenity, courage, and you'll find more information at castrocountryclub.org.
And do tune in every Tuesday, again at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, when we go live on our Castro Country Club Facebook and YouTube channels.
And look for at the CCC where you listen to podcasts.
And we'd love to hear from you. So go ahead and leave us a voicemail on our Speak Pipe. The link is in the description below.
Okay. Email us at podcast@castrocountryclub.org.
And I also wanted to, I didn't get to plug my stuff, but with Pride, a queer chaplain is doing a lot of work talking with trans folks and drag artists about spirituality. So if you're into that shit, check out A Queer Chaplain. And don't forget to share, comment, and subscribe, follow.
Exactly.
Give it to people who need to be of service or I don't know.
And we should definitely thank you so much, Kim, for being
Kim.
here with us. You
wow,
are
that was
amazing. We
I know,
love
right?
you. We absolutely love you.
Aw,
Like 45 minutes later. Can you
wow,
believe that?
that was so quick. I was just going to get into something.
Oh, were you?
Right on.
We'll have to have you on again sometime.
Oh.
Right.